We're about to get into something that is not receiving a lot of mainstream press coverage. And thanks to Yahoo for doing a lot of the research for this story. Yahoo is the only media outlet that I've even seen cover this. Now, there's been endless coverage of declining ratings for the Olympics, but that is not the reason I'm bringing this up. We all know why ratings are down this year. The ratings problem for the Olympics, it can be fixed. Simple solution: get rid of the woke politics, promote athletes that love their country, and Americans will come back and support it. So while the Olympics are taking a beating in the ratings department right now, that problem can be solved. That is not their biggest problem. Their biggest problem is something that's completely out of their control. And oddly enough, it is a problem that the International Olympic Committee created. Brisbane, Australia is going to host the 2032 Summer Olympics. Now, you might be thinking, who cares? That's 11 years away. Most people didn't care. In the past, it was a celebration when a city was given the Olympics. The announcement about Brisbane, Australia, it went completely unnoticed. No one cared. The IOC cares, though, and they know they are in a predicament. The Olympics haven't been held in Australia since 2000, when Sydney won the bid to host. Sydney was in competition with 8 other cities back then. There were 5 finalists. It took 4 rounds of voting for the IOC to eventually award Sydney the rights to host the Olympics. Now, fast forward to 2021, and Australia is given the privilege of hosting the Olympics again. But this time around, the process was much easier for the IOC because Brisbane, Australia was the only city in the world that was even interested. The rest of the planet decided they didn't want to be bothered. Maybe this was a one-off. Maybe other cities were concentrated on battling the COVID and weren't looking 11 years ahead to host the Olympics. Not the case. The 2024 Summer Olympics, only 2 cities were interested in hosting: Paris and Los Angeles. Paris was awarded 2024, and the IOC gave Los Angeles 2028. Why? Was it to appease LA since they lost out on 2024? Nope. It was because no other city was interested. Think about this. Beijing is hosting the Winter Olympics here in just a few months. Normally, the IOC would host the Winter Olympics in cities near mountains, since, most winter sports require elevation. Kind of hard to ski when you're on flat land. Now, I guess you could say Beijing has mountains close by. They're only about 80 miles away in the middle of nowhere, not exactly accommodating for the athletes, the media, and the fans. Now, why was Beijing given the Winter Olympics here in a few months? You guessed it, no other city was interested. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. There was one other country that made a bid. Almaty, Kazakhstan, submitted a bid to host the Olympics, but no one involved with the IOC could find Kazakhstan on a globe, so they went with Beijing instead. Now, you might be thinking, how is this possible? Cities and countries make billions of dollars by hosting the Olympics. Yeah, that used to be the case. However, the IOC has screwed themselves here. Due to their greed and corruption, they have driven up the price to host the Olympics and made it so expensive that cities and countries no longer want to take the risk. Hosting the Olympics became less about which city was most beneficial to the specific event and more about bribing the International Olympic Committee. The general public around the world has also caught on to the corruption involved with their city or country hosting the Olympics. Historically, the IOC would require host cities to construct numerous brand new stadiums, venues, arenas. We don't want to use your existing arenas. We're going to require you to build them all brand new. The problem is, what the hell do you do with some of these facilities once the Olympics are over? Most cities, most countries have no use for a brand new aquatic center. Also, I think it's easy to draw the line and see how that process can become corrupted. Politicians, they hand out the bids to contractors who give them kickbacks. The taxpayers footing the bill anyway, just like with everything else political, everyone involved makes loads of money except for people like me and you, the population. We're the ones spending that money. Hungary was interested in hosting the Olympics in 2024 or 2028. They dropped out. Why? Their citizens came together and put together a No Olympics campaign, put pressure on the politicians to drop out. Germany dropped out after over half the population voted against hosting the Olympics. Rome, same thing. Even here in America, politicians in Boston withdrew due to backlash from its citizens. Oslo, Norway, 56% of voters opposed hosting the Winter Olympics. Poland, 70%. You get the point. The people have opened their eyes. And see, the International Olympic Committee, for what it really is, a corrupt organization looking to extort their homeland for money and then get the hell out of there. But that is not the IOC's only problem here. That's just the problem that they've created for themselves with their own corruption. They're also fighting against something that is completely out of their control and something the wokers have used as the tool in their arsenal for the last 18 months. And of course, I'm talking about the COVID. Japan invested over $15 billion preparing to host the Olympics. They are never going to recoup that money. They lost over $1 billion in ticket sales alone, mainly because they wouldn't let people into the damn country. The prime minister in Japan pushed hard to have Tokyo host the Olympics. Now, he doesn't want anything to do with it. The population of Japan vehemently opposes the Olympics because they have been fed propaganda by their own media and government about the dangers of the COVID. And look, I'm not downplaying the seriousness of COVID. I'm not a doctor. I don't consider myself qualified to speak medically about the virus. Although, I do think I'm more qualified than Anthony Fauci. I wouldn't trust Anthony Fauci to diagnose a pet lizard. At least my opinion on the COVID hasn't changed. Fauci has flip-flopped so many times, he can't remember which side of the issue he's on. Every damn interview he gives, he's saying the opposite of what he just said minutes before. Anyway, the COVID is playing a part in countries being hesitant to spend billions of dollars to host the Olympics. What if what's happening now in Tokyo happens to them? Is it really worth the risk to spend billions and a new strain of the COVID comes out and you shoot yourself in the foot by imposing restrictions and lockdowns? Now, to me, there's a simple solution to that problem. You don't impose the restrictions. We learn to live with the COVID. But these woke politicians are not going to do that. Oh, they're loving the COVID. They want to keep the COVID alive as long as possible. That's why they're pushing this new Delta strain. Do your own research. Don't listen to the damn media. Don't listen to me. Do your own research. The media is spreading propaganda, and so are governments, which is what both of those things do best. But do your own research. Look at the case count for COVID. Then look at the death count. And you tell me if we should be locking down again. You tell me if we should be having vaccine mandates. The situation the IOC finds themselves in is proof that the general population in any country can empower change. The reason cities around the world are uninterested in bringing the Olympics to town is because the politicians are worried that if they do, they're not going to get reelected. That's all they care about. Now, I wouldn't classify the Olympics as being on life support right now, but their future is damn sure in critical condition. Everyone is turning their back on them. They're in the same boat as Andrew Cuomo. Politicians are turning on the Olympics. Americans have turned against them because they allow woke politics to take over, along with anti-American athletes. The only partner the IOC has right now is NBC. And that's only because NBC has billions of dollars invested. I bet they have buyer's remorse now. I think another problem, and the Yahoo article didn't touch on this, The International Olympic Committee has allowed the image of the Olympics to be ruined over decades. This has taken a long time to happen, but they've allowed the image to be ruined. The Olympics used to unify the world. It used to be about amateur athletes competing for the love of the game. Now it's all about money. It's all about sponsorships. Everyone's getting paid. Everyone wants attention on themselves. Politics has taken over. And I'm not just talking about woke politics, I'm talking about politics in general. They have allowed the Olympics to become corrupt. And corruption always ends the same way, in destruction. All right, time to let me know what you think. Is the future of the Olympics on life support? What changes could the IOC make to revitalize the Olympics? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.